Greetings. Today is the Timeshare Travelers, episode 272. When struggling pays off. Here's the basic premise: is success through persistence. And I wanted to go through my story a little bit because I want to sort of, when you feel down or you're feeling like, why did I buy this timeshare? Why did I do this? I want to walk you through sort of the process I went through in evolution so that you don't give up. So I went through the feeling lost phase, and I'll describe that for me. And then I finally achieved my goal, which in my case was vacations in Hawaii. That was the real reason I ended up buying timeshares. It really was targeting that. And then I want to talk about the first breakthrough that was kind of like, oh, a lot, I can actually do more. Then I'll talk about the continuous improvement and kind of where I am now. But I wanted to go through this really just for people who feel like giving up and want to sell their timeshares. And maybe you should, but maybe you should give this a try. So I want to just create an episode for that. I remember this so much, the feeling of loss. I just was lost. I bought the timeshare. The presentation sounded good. It was exactly described what I was looking for. I wanted to be able to go vacation in Hawaii. I didn't even know how to book the vacation, but I was ready to go to Hawaii, and I discovered it just wasn't easy. I just didn't know. I actually didn't even know where to go. So luckily, I just called the 800 number to try to book the website, and luckily, I did it early enough in the year for some reason. I don't know, because I wanted to do it during the summer vacation when my kids were out of school. So I called to book my first reservation, realized that dates were not necessarily going to be working out exactly what I wanted, but I found one that worked, and it really wasn't easy. I trying to coordinate airfares, trying to get everyone's schedule, and I was having to book it like 7 or 8 months out in advance, and I was like, oh, what did I get into? Then ended up dealing with the worries of the family vacation, a new place to stay in Princeville, Kauai, Hawaii. The pictures looked good, so that was the plus. So that was, I was just completely feeling, and then obviously the story ended out good, because the vacation was amazing and it was the better place than I'd ever stayed at before. So that was a plus. And let me just talk about then how I got to this place where I kind of achieved my original goal, which was through persistence. Okay, so I finally achieved my basic goal of being able to go to Hawaii on my annual vacations that I wanted for my family and myself. And really came down to, I figured out the website. When I was reliant on calling in the number and making it work, that just wasn't good enough, and I didn't have enough control. I was still learning the ropes, but I finally figured it out. Availability for booking far in advance. I could do it myself. I could check. That I still might call in and have them book it, but I was prepared before I did that. And so I was happy to know I could book a vacation every year, and I could do this. I had figured out the details, but it took me at least 1 year of trial and error and more or less praying and hoping that it worked. But by the second year, and then probably maybe even the third year, I was actually knew that I was staying at a timeshare was much better than the facility was much nicer than any other condo I'd stayed at, and I picked the Westin, so that's probably was a good choice given what I was trying to do. So the family and I realized in that second or third year, which I had sort of known, but it was cemented in, that the maintenance fees were much cheaper than booking a regular condo, and the savings would eventually pay off for the purchase. I wish I sort of had a sense that I could do that because I did some research, but by the second or third year I realized, I was going to pay this off. I would have saved money because I was tracking it in a spreadsheet. I was saving money. I knew I was going to pay it off. And I was like, okay, took a risk, did my research as best I could. There was a period when I thought I had completely screwed it up. I blew probably $25,000 at the time back in 2007, which was a ton of money, still a ton of money. But anyway, so I finally achieved my goal after about 3 years of knowing what I was doing. But it was kind of tenuous and scary, but I eventually got there. My first breakthrough was kind of lucky, and maybe it's because I wasn't at the time. I was an IT professional. I was constantly dealing with salespeople selling me stuff because I was an executive at that point. So that was constantly buying software and so forth. So I was familiar with the sales pitches and trying to sort through what they were trying to tell me was real and what was actually really real. And I finally realized I could get education from the sales presentations. I started being prepared to ask more questions and never was expecting to buy. They tried to sell me an upgrade so I could put points into Interval. So I was like, Interval, what's that? So I went in and figured out that I could log into it. I logged into it. I started clicking around, figuring out. By then I was comfortable working with the websites. I'd already worked with the main website. So I was in Interval. And it was the first time I actually learned something from the sales presentation. It wasn't what the salesperson wanted me to learn, but what I learned was I could actually book an extra vacation for under $400 and not use any of my points. So it was like, oh my God, I was seeing a break even on my eventually after 7 years or so, I guess, I estimated, and it turned out to be true, that I would finally pay off what I put into the savings I got from my vacations would pay off what I originally purchased. And then I discovered that I got free hotel stays for going to a sales presentation, and B, I was in the presentation and learned about Interval, something I kind of, sort of glossed over when I first bought my timeshare. And I realized I got an extra vacation for like a third the cost of even a hotel, and I was in a much better location. Again, it wasn't as nice as the Westons. The Intervals were kind of lesser hotels, but it was or lesser timeshares, but it was pretty nice. It was still nicer than a hotel and nicer than most of the condos I'd ever been. So it was way better. And that was the first understanding that I could travel. If I could figure out a way to travel off peak, I could save a ton of money. And it was my first breakthrough, that knowing that I could just learn from the sales presentation. Once I finished my first breakthrough, I realized that what I really needed to do was continuously improve on that. Now I'll sort of jump to where I am right now. And over the last 10 years, I've just gotten better and better. And my current ratio is about 2 vacations with cash at prices well below my maintenance for every vacation with points that I take. Maybe even a little better than that, but roughly that's what I do. I only use the points for hard to book destinations, and I'm saying that's like Hawaii, because you don't want to get to Hawaii hoping you can do a last minute stay. So I like to book in advance just because there's airfare and cars and they're a little more complicated. I could always stay in a hotel with the points I have, but I don't want to do that. So that's an example where I book it, or if I do a Christmas holiday and I really want to do that. And I book off-peak travel with dollars, because that's when it's the way below maintenance fees. I don't need to own as many points in the timeshare for the vacations alike. In other words, I've turned it all the way around, where instead of the salesperson saying you need more points, you need more points, you need more points, I figured out how to book without using points for less money than my maintenance fees. So I actually need less points and less points and less points. And those who follow me on the channel, I've got people commenting now what they've done, that they've been able to actually do more without having to buy more points, which really ultimately saves a lot of money. I read about all the status perks and make sure I use them, or at least I do my best. I don't always do everything. I can't say that I used every last dollar of my Lyft rides that I get for free from being status on Hilton Grand Vacations. I have free rental credits from Hilton, plus I have discounted rental credits from Marriott that I can get. I constantly look at the specials to see if there's an opportunity for me to get a discounted rate at a location. I book my Hawaii, even though I say I use points, I book it during the off-peak periods. It typically saves me 30%. Honestly, with the presentations, I probably earn at least a free month of hotel stays. Can't be for sure that I've done it every year. I did a couple videos early when I first figured this out, and I was getting at least a month. And again, I was inspired to do this video because one of my subscribers mentioned that they were able to book a marketing stay in spring training next year for baseball, so they get basically a free stay for a sales presentation, and they get to go see 2 or 3 spring training games, which they're obviously a baseball fan. Anyway, so that's continuous improvement, that you just keep doing it, and that's kind of where I've gotten to. I want to inspire everyone to fight through that first frustration just like I did, and I consider it somewhat luck, but it was also, I have a persistent personality. Hope you liked the video. Don't forget to like and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll be telling you a little bit about my channel right after this. Hi, this is Cliff, and I'm the Timeshare Traveler. Welcome to my channel. The purpose of my channel is to educate those who love traveling in timeshares. I've been an owner for 15 plus years at timeshare ownership. I have elite ownership with Marriott, Hilton, and Worldmark. I have published over 100 timeshare video reviews, and I've published over 95 timeshare tips. I can be found on Facebook at Timeshare Trav, at Twitter Timeshare Trav, and on the web at www.timesharetraveler.com.